Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show. You know who I am. I'm Robbie Basel, and today there's a couple of things to talk about. Not that much. There's a lot to talk about on Friday, and I'm very excited for that episode because we have preseason NFL to possibly talk about, some storylines we'll see then. We have the Premier League to talk about, and much more. That's on Friday. We only have three topics to talk about today. Last time we talked about a couple of other notes, so today we have updates from transfers and F1, a little F1 news because something came out yesterday about a certain driver. But we begin today with, Major League Baseball's been very interesting since the trade deadline. So I think it's only right if, for the first time since the deadline, I give you an update on baseball itself. So we're gonna go division by division and explain what the heck is going on, beginning in the American League because that's what always happens with these things. Apparently, the American League East and Baltimore is playing good baseball. Baltimore leads ahead of Tampa Bay. The Orioles have, I believe, just swept the Mets, which is pain for me, of course. But it's also hilarious because if you told me this last year, I thought you would have been crazy. They took 3 or 4, so I believe they've won 9 of 11, which is or like nine of it's something along those lines, which is one outrageous. But it shows that they've made only one crucial move at the deadline, and that was Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty looked all right in his start. I'll give him that. So the Orioles are doing something right. They have all these young talents. You want to mention some of the guys that they have on this team. They have Gunnar Henderson, the future at shortstop. Adley Rutschman, Cedric Mullins in center field, Austin Hayes. They have other pieces as well on this team. Ryan Mountcastle is one of them. Big fan of Ryan Mountcastle. They have a very young team. I'm still confused on why they didn't do more at the deadline, the Orioles. But right now, it seems like they've done enough to put them in a good enough position to make a playoff push. They're the first American League team to 70 wins. If you told me that when I made the Major League predictions on Into the Stands, I would have told you have lost your mind. But they've proved a lot of people wrong, including myself. I did say the Orioles would be a wild card team or in the wild card hunt, but I didn't expect anything like this because I had big questions about their starting pitching. They've proved me wrong. So the Orioles are in first, narrowly ahead of Tampa Bay, who've also had a good season. They've won 6 of 10. They are really good at home, and they've proved that. 37-19, one of the best home records in baseball. They are off today. They go tomorrow to play the struggling Cardinals after going up and not looking great. They looked all right against the Tigers. I mean, they lost. They took 2 of 3 from the Tigers. Then you took 2 of 3 from the Yankees. Then they at one point lost 17-4 to the Astros, which is what the heck, guys. The issue with them was pitching depth. You added Aaron Savali. The injuries are really piling up for Tampa Bay, and that's what they're really experiencing. I believe Shane McClanahan's down. You lost 2 starters out for the season before this point, and they're still holding it together. So Tampa Bay is doing something right, as they are in second. The Blue Jays are in third. They are 7.5 back. Still on the wild card hunt. They're a solid team. I think Jordan Hicks was a great addition for them. I said that in the trade deadline recap episode. I love Jordan Hicks. I think he's a great addition. He's a flame throwing right-handed relief pitcher. Will they be able to re-sign him? That's the question. But Alek Manoah's came back and looked all right. There's still some question marks around the team, but the Blue Jays, they're doing things. In fourth, the Pinstripes, the Yankees, who I had projected to win this division back in February or March, whenever we made these predictions. They are in 4 games over 500. They have lost 6 of 10, and you look what they've done recent. Let's look what they've done recently. They're playing the White Sox tonight on the day of this video. They have, I believe they split with the Astros, then lost 2-3 to the Rays, and then got swept by Baltimore. So they haven't had, granted, they've had a difficult schedule. All those 3 teams are playoff caliber squads. I remember back in the beginning of the year where the Yankees looked all right, but they didn't play. Let me rephrase that. The Yankees looked good in the beginning of the year against good teams. The Mets, let's compare them real quick. Remember when the Mets had that really easy opening start to the year and everyone thought that's when the Mets were going to look good and the Mets sucked? The Yankees are playing hard teams again after some easy stretches. They've lost 9 of their last 11 series, and the series they've won were to the Royals and the Athletics. There's red flags galore. And that's the main problem here is that this team is good enough to win divisions. Some of the divisions in baseball right now. I'd say at least 2, both Centrals, which may not seem like much, but the NL Central actually performing, it actually says more than you would believe. The Yankees are good enough, but there's one statement that really came to my head from the news. That was from Kenyon Middleton, one of the trade pieces acquired by the Yankees, one of the 2 players, Spencer Howard, who's in AAA, and of course Kenyon Middleton, going after the culture of the White Sox. And that's why I think the White Sox are in the situation they're in, is a culture switch. Remember, they lost their manager from last year after he resigned due to health concerns. They have a new manager. He hasn't done very well. I think he should get canned with the White Sox. But granted, I don't know what the White Sox do. This hurts the White Sox reputation. They're in enough of a mess, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the White Sox are... Actually, no, we'll talk about it now. As, by the way, Boston's in 5th. Quickly on the rest of the AL East, Boston's dropped 7 of 10. They're falling down the order as expected. Boston's in last. It feels terrible to say that. Now to the catastrophe. To start, the Royals have won 7 of 10 and swept the Mets. That's all I'll speak on them. They trade Scott Barlow and have won 7 of 10. Nothing makes sense anymore. The White Sox remain in 4th, and they just played the Indians and had that incredible moment on Saturday night when J Ran threw a nice right hook to Tim Anderson. And for those who don't know, that fight was more eventful than Jake Paul Nate Diaz for the majority of that bout. It was unfathomable to see something like that. I haven't seen anything really like a 1v1 like that. It screamed Batista Odor from a while ago now, when Joey Bats had that bad slide and the brawl ensued and Odor or whoever one has destroyed the other. It reminded me of one of those moments. And while it may look like a positive for the game of baseball, it shows that some of these guys can get out of control very quickly, and it sucks. But going back to the play, Anderson was more in the wrong, and he got he got suspended 6 games and lost the fight. That just proves that this thing got really weird. J Ram got 3 games, and Emmanuel Clase got a game for I don't know what, but Anderson getting less of a suspension than Ramirez is. I mean, Anderson started the thing, but I think they both should have gotten the same. That's just my view on it. I mean, you're both in a fight. One destroys the other. If the one who instigates loses, I think they both should get the same punishment. But I don't know. That's just my view on it. But both of them are falling away from the Twins, who are now 4.5 up on the Guardians and have had to do the bare minimum and are 5 games ahead. The Tigers are in 3rd. They are slipping away. They have lost 7 of 10 to fall out of the picture. Their home record is almost as bad as the Royals. The Royals have the worst road record in baseball. They have the same road record as Oakland, which isn't saying much. They're not that awful at home. They have the same home record as the Whites. They're 2 games back of both Central teams. At 3rd and 4th, the Royals are for home record. So something to look out for to see if anyone has a worse home record than the Royals, other than Oakland, of course. Heading out west, the Rangers are holding it down barely. They're 2.5 games up on the Astros. They have won 7 of 10. And if you look at what the Rangers have done, the Rangers, granted they're playing Oakland, let's look what they've done previously, because the DeGrom-less Rangers are doing good. They went out and swept the Marlins, and they swept the White Sox. And then they got swept before that, though, by the Padres. You go out and sweep teams, and then you get swept. And before that, they beat the Astros, and then they lost 2 of 3 to the Astros. It's a very mixed last couple of weeks from the Rangers. They go up in a series away to Oakland, then they're away to the Giants, and then they're home against the Angels. That Angels series, I think, is going to be very crucial. On August 14th, 15th, and 16th, all games at 8:05 p.m. All those games collectively can really change the course of one team's season. More on that in a second. The Rangers as a whole, they're still holding it down. Good for them. The Astros are in second. They're still holding it down. Verlander, well, I mean, actually, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Max Scherzer, after he got traded from the Mets to the Rangers, allowed 300 runs in his first start. He's still somewhat mid, but serviceable, so just a fun note there. Justin Verlander is playing for the Astros. It'll be fun to see Scherzer Verlander if that's a matchup later in the season. I'm interested in that. The Mariners are in third. I said don't sleep on the Mariners, and it's weird that they almost sold. How so? They've won 8 of 10. You think things may not be possible with the Mariners, but by God, they did it. The Mariners are now in third after winning. Let's look at who they've beaten recently. Let's take a look, shall we? You go out and sweep 4 against the Angels. Then you take all 3 against the Red Sox. And you take a couple. Wait, did they lose again multiple games to the Red Sox? I'm confused. How have they won 8 of 10? I don't know. I'm not that good with math, but the Mariners are holding it down. And it's just awesome to see. Because people thought they would be fading away. No. They're actually holding it down. The starting rotation's coming around. The offense is somewhat coming around. And to have thought they would sell at the deadline, I knew it was ludicrous. And I knew they weren't going to sell. And they proved me somewhat right here. So, the Mariners are holding it down, and the Angels have fallen away. Proving my point right that you should not have gone all in. You should have done that last year. Angels are incompetent, and I love to see it. Even though Shohei Ohtani may leave from that team, which will be hilarious, because he's not going to go to the Mets. We all know he's not going to go to the Mets. I mean, it would change our whole team. But besides the fact, they've gotten swept by the Mariners. Then they lost 2 of 3 to the Braves. Then dropped 2 of 3 to the Blue Jays. Before that was right before the deadline. Angels are a mess. They've lost 8 of 10. They need to change the course of their season around, or they're done. And it's only early to mid-August, and I'm saying they're done. Just making the impact, increasing the impact, of the game between the series between the Angels and the Rangers in a couple of weeks. Last place is the A's. We expected that. They're pretty much eliminated from the division already. It's actually getting to that point now, which is sad. The Orioles, I almost forgot to mention, they have this tie for the best record in baseball at 70 wins. Who else has that record? The Braves in the National League East. This team is miraculous, and to not say they are is just wrong. The Braves have won 6 of 10. They're still holding it down. The Phillies are in second. You knew the Marlins weren't going to be stable. They've dropped 7 of 10, opening the door for the boys from this. I forgot what the thing is called. From the city of brotherly love. There you go. Professional podcast host. The Phillies have done their thing. And granted, they may be experimenting with Bryce Harper at first base and some other shenanigans. And of course, Kyle Schwarber is still playing the field, which, what the heck are they doing? The thing with the Philadelphia Phillies are, they're starting to turn it around at the perfect time. Maybe you could argue it's the perfect time because where they were at the deadline, or where they were heading towards, which is third place, and where they're heading towards now is already better, and it's been like a week and a half, not even just short of a week since the deadline happened. Deadline's going to be 1 week from yesterday, which is what they've done already. The Phillies, they've turned around their whole season. They're in second. The Marlins are falling away, as expected. The Mets, I don't even want to talk about the Mets today. And the Nationals are 1 game worse than the Mets. The tank is on, damn it. The tank is on. enough about the mediocrity division. I don't even want to talk about the NL East anymore. To moving on to the Central, this division has just gotten really weird really quickly. To begin, the Cubs have come out of absolutely nowhere and have won 7 of their last 10 in order to make a push for the NL Central title. Falling away are both the Brewers and the Reds to make this actually interesting. I didn't think that this would be possible. One, the Cardinals still are back in last again. 1 game behind, I believe 1 game behind the Pirates. Yeah, one. The Mets and the Pirates have the same record. I hate everything. But in all reality, one, why are the Cubs even in this picture? They've turned it around. And the Cubs are playing the Mets and they're losing to the Mets, which Pete Alonso, I believe, has 2 home runs tonight, which is nice. The Cubs have gone out and taken what the Mets can't do against a team like this and have taken 2 of 3 from the Braves. Then they took 3 of 4 from the Reds. Then took 3 of 4 from the Cardinals. And now they possibly will be dropping this game to the Mets. The Cubs are doing everything right. They have a lot of young pieces that we're all trying to get our heads around. You thought the Cubs would be rebuilding? Come on. I mean, they have young pieces like Christopher Morel, just to throw one out there. They're a young team. They kept Cody Bellinger, which caused fans to go in outrage in the Bronx, and I love to see it. At the end of the day, the Cubs are heating up, just like the Phillies. This reminds me of the team for like the Phillies from kind of like the Phillies and Nationals teams when they both made the World Series, where they just heated up in the second half and just made the playoffs. Maybe it was like a wild card team. Will this team prove Chris Gambino right? Find out in late September. That would be. Remember, if you watched Into the Stands, the other show I do, link to the Instagram in the description. You have to remember in the MLB prediction that Chris Gambino, my guy, said the Cubs had a chance with the unpredictability of the playoffs to make a possible run at the World Series. And you remember from last year in the playoffs, Colin made the idea that the Phillies can maybe even make a run. Will I get a prediction right on that show? I have no idea at this point. I did say the Nuggets would win, but in all seriousness, the Cubs are doing everything right. The Cardinals, I don't even want to talk about the Cardinals. They're like the Mets. I don't want to talk about it. And now we head to the West, where the Diamondbacks have faded away. They've lost 8 of 10. The Dodgers are holding it down. The Giants are still doing things, which is making me question everything. And the Padres have won a lot of games. The Rockies are the Rockies. I feel bad for Chris Bryant. It sucks to see the Diamondbacks and Marlins fall away like this. You had to have expected, with both the Marlins and the Diamondbacks, that they were not going to have the stability and everything else go their way to stay in second with the talent in the divisions around them. Even if the Giants are somehow better than the Diamondbacks, which I don't know how they are, but they are. J.D. Davis actually might play in a playoff game next year. Who knows? But the Diamondbacks, I still feel like they can turn it around. They're a team that can get really hot really fast. I'm confident in the Diamondbacks that they can do it. Marlins, I'm not so sure about. I kind of like the Diamondbacks as a team more. But, you know, the National League is a world war, and you love to see it as a fan because some of the things in the American League right now are, oh boy, it's weird. It's gonna get even weirder, and I cannot wait for more insanity to ensue for the next month. And I'll continue to talk about baseball more. Of course, we'll do the big thing about the playoffs. Just for the note, the playoffs are going to be predicted on Into the Stands. That's something we did last year. We're going to do it again. Most likely, at least. On to, from the diamond to the pitch, we head to soccer next. As, like I said, the Premier League begins this week. We have some transfers to talk about because there's a couple interesting things going on in the transfer market. To begin, Jusko Kvardiol completed his move from Leipzig to City. He has moved to the Evil Empire for a fee that we don't even know what the exact value is. On the same day, we had, I'm going to butcher this, Rasmus Højlund. That's the best effort I gave. That's better than the effort you're going to see on the Premier League prediction video. He moved from Atalanta to Manchester United. That fee's gonna be around 80. I think it was 80 million. I'm not 100%. I don't remember it. This list from ESPN does not show their actual value yet. Two great moves. We'll start with Gvardiol, who we know about if you've watched the Bundesliga. I do watch the Bundesliga a little bit. He's a great defender. He adds depth to that team. You now have center backs like Stones. You have Ruben Diaz, and you have Gvardiol, Ake can play center back. You have the talent at center back. This team is unstoppable, and yet they still couldn't stop Arsenal from winning the Community Shield. We are massive. Well, Arsenal is massive, and we're still going to finish like third in the Prem. Yet you can argue we are massive. But in all seriousness, Højlund, I love him. And if the video comes out from the Premier League in a couple weeks, you'll hear my praises on this dude. Because this dude is tall, he can get in the dirty areas, and he can finish the dinner that United were unable to do last season because they were just carried by Rashford and Bruno Fernandes, and they just couldn't get carried by anyone else. Speaking of weird transfers, and this is just like a meme at this point, West Ham are going after Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay. Okay. One, how the heck are they going to pay? Why are they paying $60 million for these two? You're really going to replace Declan Rice with Scott McTominay. And they thought I was crazy with some of my Premier League predictions that you'll see in a couple of weeks. This is unfathomable. It's crazy to me. You really replaced the third best number 6 with Scott McTominay. Jesus. For those who don't know, Declan Rice is third behind Rodri and it would have been Gundogan, but he's gone. It's Rodri and Casemiro. So that's just when you know things are gonna get out of hand. Other moves, Robert Sanchez, the goalkeeper, went from Brighton to Chelsea. I kind of like this one. Chelsea needed another goalkeeper with Kepa. They lost Edouard Mendy to the Saudi League. So this one actually makes sense. I kind of like Sanchez. I didn't like what don't like what Brighton sold a lot of people, but they can. If you talking about my good friend Dylan Shalom, who's in the Premier League video, he says it very well, and I'll say it here now. They know how to scout in weird places. Like, for those who don't know the game Football Manager, you basically go out and scout these weird. You can scout these like places like Colombia for like cheap and get these players like. This is just my example. Not the country's not this poor in relativeness, but you can get cheaper players out of places like Colombia. That's just how soccer clubs are. They're going to like the South American countries and going out and getting these young players, which has worked, and they've gone to these other places and it's worked. They might have to do it again. This is why I'm not that high on Brighton this season. And the final move we'll talk about is Yunus Musa, because I needed to mention an American. He has officially signed a deal with AC Milan. I like the move. They needed another winger or a central midfielder. He can play both. This is perfect for them. One other thing, Tyler Adams has been linked with Chelsea. We don't know. He's a £20 million pound relegation release clause because Leeds got relegated. Sucks to see Leeds get relegated, but I mean, I'm interested to see if where he goes. Chelsea's been linked with him, but that's the only big transfer we've heard of. So, heading from the pitch to the racetrack. As you know, F1 is in its summer break. We don't see F1 come back till the weekend before I go to school. So, in spite of this, there's multiple pieces of F1 news that have come out recently. We know about McLaren and bringing more upgrades to the season, which is why the hell are you bringing upgrades for? The season's basically over for P1. You're battling for P2 effectively. And I don't think they're going to get it, but it's possible. It's possible there's drivers that look good. This is like the killing. This is not on the scale of Kylian Mbappe moving from PSG to Real Madrid, most likely with the pre-agreement and all that crap. It's the same thing, kinda, because Carlos Sainz, the driver from Ferrari, has agreed to reportedly agrees deal to sign a pre-agreement with Audi F1 in 2025. According to this article from Sports, and it's blocking it. Sports Skeetar, I don't know. Carlos Sainz is reported to have signed a pre-agreement with Audi F1 amid his lingering doubts about continuing with Ferrari. First of all, I don't know how much longer. I don't even think he drives for them next year. Possibly, this could bring in the idea of him not see. This could bring a picture into everyone's mind that he may not be there next year with this pre-agreement. I don't know what Ferrari do with him, honestly. I mean, he's won them a race. I mean, he has done that, but he's showed some glimpses of how fantastic of a driver he is, and he showed glimpses of how the hell is he even driving for this team. He's done both of them. I love Carlos Sainz. He's a great person now, and he's a great person to be around from what I've heard. But if Ferrari aren't satisfied, I mean, there's been rumors around Lando Norris being interested. They team up Lando and Charles? I don't even think Lando would do it because of the intentions and how better that McLaren car looks compared to the Ferrari. It's a really weird idea. It's a really weird idea to think about to begin with. Like Lando driving for the Scuderia? I don't buy it. He shouldn't do it. He should go to Mercedes. When Hamilton retires, it'll be Lando driving for Mercedes. Just saying it now. That wasn't the only piece of F1 news to come out this week, as there's been rumors around the RB19, which is the car that's going crazy right now for Red Bull, could be used by AlphaTauri next season, or whatever the heck they're called for next season. What a weird situation AlphaTauri could be in. Because I think a lot of driver lineups, I think next year will be different. Teams like, I think there's been links. I mean, David Crofty said that could this be the end of Lance Stroll? That was a rumor that was going around. Could we see the end of Logan Sargent for his ineffectiveness at Williams? Could we see the end of Yuki Tsunoda at AlphaTauri? What happens with Daniel? Well, Nico Hulkenberg's probably out of a Haas. Possibly the same with K-Mag. Maybe they want to go younger and go out and get younger drivers. There's other possible moves as well. Shakeups are going to happen this year. But the RB19, how much is that engine going to have left? Like, it's just a weird way to go about this. Because if that car is as good as this year, AlphaTauri is going to be in freaking second after being in last. It's going to build I can't even make that comparison. I'll have to say comparison like a professional team, but they rebuilt it even longer than this car did. So I'm not even going to mention the team. This idea is crazy. Like, just imagine this for a second. Like, who would I put in that AlphaTauri car next year? I put Daniel again and Lawson would be my pairing. Just as of right now, that's what I would do. Daniel in the RB19 sounds ridiculous. I think he'd be really good. I mean, he's shown glimpses of what he can do still. He hasn't gotten points finishes, yes. But the first two races, he's not looked bad. I mean, he almost got out of Q1. He out-qualified Snowden in his opening race, and he got snubbed out of the other one because of how stingy they are at track limits. Granted, the rules are the rules, but like you have to still let some of the little things go. That's just my view on that type of stuff. But if that does happen, I'm very intrigued to see what the midfield looks like next year. If the car is just as good as this year. But it's one of those moments where you have to wait and see. and we'll just have to wait and see for what I'm going to discuss on Friday. Because that is the end of today's episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you see, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, and like I said, in a couple of weeks, you're going to see 3 videos all edited with a couple of special guests. You guys want to make sure you hit the subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload, because a lot of interesting videos will be coming out soon, later this month and into early September. But we have a long way to go till then. There's still videos with me by myself. But for now, I'm Robbie Basel, signing off for now. I'll see you guys Friday. Good night, everybody.